Foundry Virtual Tabletop and Illwinter's Dungeon Designer. Illwinter's Dungeon Designer or Floorplan Editor is an application which you can get on Steam. I think it retails for about €6, so it's very reasonable, one-off cost, and it's really great for getting together quick maps for anything D&D or Call of Cthulhu or whatever you want. Foundry Virtual Tabletop is an application which allows you to share your environment, your role-playing game, whether it be D&D or again Call of Cthulhu. It's a great application. It's a one-off payment, and only the games master needs to own a copy, and actually he or she doesn't even need to own a copy. Only one member of the group does. So even if you are in a club or a group and you can't afford it, the person who owns it can actually create the application and let you be the GM. So it's a great application. It's a once-off cost. But also you can host it on your own machine, so you don't necessarily have to pay any hosting fees or whatever. You just obviously need a decent internet connection. So we've been using it, and we actually haven't been using it. Our first game of it's going to be this coming Monday. I'll pop the link down there if I remember it. We'll be streaming on YouTube. One of the things that took me a while to figure out was lining up your maps properly, because it uses dynamic lighting, and as a result you have to build walls around your existing drawing, and you need to do this properly. You really there's a couple of little tricks you need. It's not hard to do, it's very simple, but hopefully this, if you're having problems with this, or even if it just saves you some time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly design a map in Illwinter's, and there's a couple of things you need to just do when you're doing it. So just come out of that there, okay. And I'm going to go new dungeon, and the first thing you need to, when you've decided what your grid size and that is, you just need to make a note of it. So in this case I'm going to go 11 by 8 landscape. So I'm just going to jot that down somewhere, 11 by 8 landscape, and you get up the default terrain. And I could have actually made life a little bit easier for myself, and I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go plains. Okay, so 11 by 8 plains. You can see the grid. Their grid is handy, but I will switch it off before exporting it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very, very quickly, I'm going to draw some walls around this. So click on the terrain, and let's pull up very quickly, we're going to get we'll go stone wall, and just going to draw this around. I'm going to leave a gap there for a door. I'm on the fence whether to leave gaps for doors or whether to put doors in. I'm going to put in some windows here. So we'll use we'll use this as our window. And we have to, I want to put it on top of the wall so we can see it. There's a window. They're probably not great windows. I could have probably picked a better window. But anyway, this is only just for pure demonstration. Okay. So there is our little building. We'll give it a floor. We'll give it a floor. Why not? And we'll give it a parquet floor. We'll go 2 by 2. And I'm going to just switch off the grids, because I'd rather not have a grid. Actually, do you know what? I think I'll leave the grid on just for this demonstration with thin lines there, but I would normally switch it off. But you'll see it lining up better that way. So I'm going to go File Menu. I'm going to do a quick export, and you can see it's going to export it to my Fantasy Ground drive. Actually, it's not. So I just need to change this. So Fantasy Grounds live in the user. Data, local, and Foundry. I said Fantasy Ground there, sorry, of course I meant Foundry. And data and worlds. This is the world I'm designing at the moment. I'm going to put in the folder called scenes, and I'm going to call this, so it was 11 by 8, so that's just for me here, 11 by 8 room. And that is exported there. Lovely jubbly. Okay, now over to Fantasy Ground. No, I keep calling it Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So I've already created a scene. I'm going to go in here now and I'm going to select my background. So here's my background image and 11 by 8 room. That was the one. Hit select file. And if I just do this here now, save changes, yeah, give me a warning. It'll come in here. And sometimes, I don't know, I'm just flicking out of it. I'm going to come back into it. Oh, sorry, that happens up there. It's up here. If that ever happens, see, it sometimes goes over here. I'm just going to delete that. Click and drag it in and zoom it in. So there it is. Now, the reason I left the grid on that time when I was going to switch it off, the black lines here are the grid lines from Foundry, and these little light ones are the ones that came in from Illwinter. Now, if I try and draw a wall, which I can do, I can draw a wall along here, free, not locking it to any grid. I can do that, and that isn't the problem. You can see they're all over the place. So it's much better to lock the wall to the grid because it just gets nicer. So I'm switching that on and then draw my walls. Now here's the problem. It's going to lock to the black grid and not the white grid. The white grid is the one that was designed in Illwinter and the black grid is the one from Foundry, and they don't line up. So how to do that? Well, remember I said it's important to remember the resolution you used, and it was 11 by 8, so that is 11 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 8 this way. So when we go into our new scene, if I go back to configure, the important thing here on the grid are these settings. So it's guessed at the settings as 704 by 512, because that's the resolution of this image, but that's nothing to do with the grid. So what we want to do is we want to select width is 11, but we have to go 100 because it's 108. So just add. So if it's 11 by 8, it becomes 1100 by 800. If it was 22 by 22, it'd be 2200 by 2200. That's all you have to do. Save. Yes, it's going to do that because it's going to realign the thing and mess up any walls you've drawn. So now when we go in, and now you can only see one set of grid lines because they line perfectly. And now what we can do is when we draw our walls, they will align with these grids here, and the walls we can just very quickly draw them anyway, like that, and they'll go over. Now I can do the little trick here, Control Z. And we go a wall from here. Oops. There. Now you can see they're not going exactly up to the windows. That's because the windows are slightly smaller than the grids. So I'm going to go onto a window here. Again, just anywhere in that square, and they'll line up lovely. Look at that. Don't even have to go near the dots there. They'll just do it perfectly. And then let's do a door. And there is our map. Now, for some reason or let's say we wanted to have a wall in between here, a virtual wall in here. You'll notice I can't do it because I'm snapping to grid. Well, we went 1100 by 800 and our size was 100 per cube. We can actually change that. So let's say we can go into configure. If I change this down to 50, but I'm keeping the 1100 by 800 the same, that will always stay the same. That will be always 2 zeros on the end of whatever your grid size is. But if I change this to 50 here, that will allow me go halfway between them. And you can see now the black grid is half the size. So now I can actually draw my walls. Oops, that was I'll draw a wall here. So I'm actually able to draw the walls halfway up around them. Or whatever way I want the wall. So now when I drop a character into this scene, here's tester MacTest, when he goes around here or she goes around here, the walls will line up perfectly with it. It's easier to go with the actual size of the walls if you want it. And there they go around it. Okay, so the big key thing to take away here is in this, if it is 11 squares, which this was for the overall grid by 8, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11 by 8, and we got this value from here, 11 by 8, when we created our drawing. We take that value, and when we go over onto creating our map here, we multiply that out, we add 2 zeros, so it was 11 by 8, so it becomes 1100 by 800. If we want it as a one-to-one relationship, as in the walls will align exactly, that we can't go halfway between them for walls. Like now I can't go halfway, I can only go along this line or this line. Then we pick a resolution of 500, which is the default one, and if we want to be able to draw a line halfway in these, then we can change it to 500. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to show you today. So thanks for watching and talk to you soon. Bye.